Why do scratch golfers make much fewer mistakes than the rest of us when out on the golf course? It all comes down to these 9 habits that I'm going to run you through today, and hopefully they'll help you lower your scores. Scratch golfers are much better at adjusting to the conditions of the day. I've got this fairly short approach shot here on the 11th hole at Pooler Golf Club, and it's 117 yards to the middle of the green, but that's not really the number we should just be looking at, picking up off our GPS devices and then hitting straight away. There's so many other factors to consider. Is this downhill? What's the wind doing? What's the temperature? Is the pin near the front? Should I be playing past the pin or short of the pin depending on the slope of the green? What are the hazards around the green? And I just find from my experience of playing lots of club and high-level amateur golf that scratch and better golfers are much better at picking out all these little details and using them to create a new distance that's like a playing distance from the day. This just means they're more consistently getting the ball pin high or up near the hole or in the area of the green that they want to hit it relative to where they think the next easiest shot, putt, chip will be from. Now, it definitely can sometimes be difficult to remember to do this, and what I used to do when I was a performance manager for some of the England girls' young training squads was have them just have a tiny little checklist like on the side of the golf bag or just write it on the top of the scorecard, and it just reminds you to check these different things. Is there a severe slope under our feet that's going to affect the shot? What's the wind doing? What's the temperature? Those key things that are going to affect how far the golf ball flies, what the shot shape does, and what club you should be selecting. So here it's a front pin. We definitely don't want to be short because of all that water. I'm going to add 5 yards on just because I want a little cushion in case I don't strike this properly. It's pretty flat calm weather today, so I don't really need to take the wind into account. But what I am going to do is go up a club and just hit it a little softer so I don't feel like I have to really smack at it, and it should just give me a little extra ball speed to make sure I get over that water comfortably. Didn't even strike that my best, but it's pretty much perfectly pin high. So if you want to lower your scores, just take a few extra seconds when you're picking your club. It'll help you out in terms of distance and consistency. From inside 50 yards, scratch golfers get up and down 54% of the time. So actually they're only saving par every other time they have a chip. But the thing I think is interesting from here is that their average dispersion after they've hit a chip shot is 11 feet. Now when we wrap that all the way around the hole, that gives us a 22 feet wide dispersion to aim into. And I think that kind of changes your thinking about what type of chip shot you could hit, or just what shot you could hit to get the ball into that zone. I think lots of us have the perspective that scratch golfers chip it really close and that you have to chip it really close to get up and down. But actually we just need to kind of get it in that rough area, which gives us a chance to hit a reasonable length putt that has a decent chance of going in the hole. So I think one thing people should experiment with is going out and hitting loads of different types of clubs, different chip shots, and just even marking that area on the green with maybe T-pegs or a little bit of chalk and seeing what different shots you can use to get the ball that distance from the hole. Now, a high floaty lofted chip may look and feel good, but if you get it wrong, it's really hard to get it in that area. It's very easy to leave it a long way away, chunk it, miss the green completely. So what are the other options we can use instead? I really love the option of like a longer iron or maybe even a hybrid or a fairway wood, lifting the hands up and using it almost like a putter. It's going to get the ball rolling really easy, get it moving down towards the pin. I think this is something we think about using quite a lot when it's a really flat shot, but actually we can use this on a wide variety of terrains and it still works. It's actually got significantly nearer than my wedge shot, which kind of proves my point. Lastly, we should just really be using putter more often. If we look at all handicap categories in ShotScope data, people get up and down the most when they use their putter as their kind of chip shot. Obviously that could be slightly skewed because if you can use putter, it's maybe a slightly easier shot than if you're maybe in thick rough or you've got to fly it over a bunker. But scratch golfers are 30% more likely to get up and down if they use a putter than a wedge, so I think we really should all be giving this option a try more often. Once you experiment using putter more, it's quite surprising how close you can get it, even from long range. And it's obviously a very low risk option in terms of the fact that you don't really have to worry about the strike at all like you do with a wedge. It's all just about controlling that distance. So if you want to get up and down more, practice more with different clubs, especially with shots you can run along the ground like a putter. The subscribe button's right there, you know. Just giving you a couple seconds to hit it. Okay, back to the video. It's quite common to hear the advice, don't fire at pins and play for the middle of the green, but is that actually the reality of the difference between scratch golfers and other handicap categories? Well, if we dive into the ShotScope data, 54% of 15 handicappers, which is pretty near the average handicap for most golfers, miss the golf ball short of the green 54% of the time. Now, it's hard to know what distance these people are playing to, if they're playing for the front, middle or the back, but the majority of the time my advice would be play for the back distance of the green, because we're much more likely to misstrike it, have missed clubs, not quite got our distance right, or have not realised it's maybe into the wind or uphill, and all those things are going to stop the ball from getting to the green quite as easily. If you go back through your mind and think of the greens you've missed recently, it's pretty uncommon that we miss a green long, and unless there's a massive water hazard long or a really deep bunker or out of bounds, generally airing on the long side isn't as bad as being short, where there's generally lots of protection such as bunkers or water hazards. So next time you're out on the golf course, err on playing for those longer distances, because scratch golfers only miss the green 25% of the time short. So they're way better at getting the correct distance and getting up to the green. So next time you go out and play or you're practicing, try just adding 10 yards to every shot and seeing what that does to the golf ball if you end up nearer the pin, further back the green, and how that helps your scoring. Sometimes I think people just don't realise how much different conditions affect the overall shot. I've got 125 yards here to the pin. That's pretty much in the middle of the green, so I can see it's 127 to the middle on my watch, but it's 138 all the way to the back of the green. It's at least a club and a half or 2 clubs uphill, and it's also slightly into the wind. So from a distance that for me is normally my pitching wedge, I'm hitting a 7-iron. I just think most people wouldn't think to do that unless it was literally a gale into their face, but it's very common that you should be clubbing up like that. I mean, I added 4 clubs to my yardage there, and it still only just got past bin high. Club up, people. We just don't hit it as far as we think. Scratch golfers are really good at watching their shots and learning from them. Let me explain what I mean by that and how you can do it. So every time we hit a golf shot, it's an opportunity to learn more about our golf game, more about the scenario we've hit the ball from and that type of shot. So if we're hitting from a ball above our feet lie in the fairway and the ball starts shipping to the left or goes slightly shorter than we think it would, that's an opportunity to learn from that and remember for next time we have a similar lie like that. Likewise, if we're chipping, we've got a chip shot up the green and we hit it onto the green and it's breaking across the green like a putt, we should be watching that and learning what the slopes are like for when we get up there, because it's going to help us with our next shot. All the really good golfers I play with are doing this, and they're building a little database either in their brain or in a notepad that allows them to go back to it and remember what they should be doing differently next time to create a different outcome. Matt Fitzpatrick is like the GOAT for doing this. He has a notepad where he makes notes on every single shot he hits in tournament golf. So he can always go back and be like, that one wasn't quite right. Why was that? Maybe ask his coach. Or remember, when I do this lie, it goes 5 yards less or 5 yards further. And that's really valuable in terms of the consistency of your shots and making sure you give yourself the best opportunity to perform each time. A really obvious one is to just watch your putts and your playing partner's putts a little bit more carefully, because that can give you loads of insight into the speed of the green that day and also the slopes around the green, which will hopefully help you drop a few more putts in. If you want to lower your scores, a lot of it's just about awareness and making the most of the environment and what you're seeing every time you go out on the golf course, because there's so much we're missing, especially if we're just like hitting a shot and turning away in disgust because we're not happy with it. Now, if we want to shoot lower scores, statistically, we should be hitting the big stick more often. Sometimes it's really tempting on a tight hole to drop down to 3-wood or hybrid, but statistically we're only gaining about 1% of accuracy moving down to a 3-wood from a driver, and obviously we're losing loads of distance. Now we know from looking at the ShotScope stats that we really want to be as near the hole as possible in order to bring our scoring average down. So dropping down a club just to be 1% more accurate really isn't a good idea and really isn't going to cut it. Now obviously you have to tie this in with your shot shape, your ability and knowing where your misses, and there will be the odd hole where we should drop down, but in general we should be trying to hit driver as much as possible if we want to bring our scores down. And if you really can't hit driver, maybe you just need to upgrade to something more forgiving or go book a few golf lessons. Now, another way scratch golfers control the ball better is by not always hitting full out shots into the green. So from here, I've got 133 yards to the middle of the green. The pin's just back of that. For me, that would be like a full 9 or a slightly soft 8, just in flat, calm conditions. Now, the ball's above my feet, which I know for me is going to turn the ball over and generally will make the ball go a little bit shorter. Now, there's no reason to just thrash at a club and try and swing it just to make the point that you could get an 8 or a 9 iron there. Why not go up a couple of clubs, hit a half or a 3/4 shot, really control the tempo and the strike and allow you to easily get the golf ball on the green. This is also a really good thing to do if it's quite a windy day, because the ball will come out a little bit lower and won't be hit by the elements so much. So in this scenario, I've actually gone up to my 6 iron and I'm just going to hit a softer, shorter shot, hopefully control the ball a little better, take some of the spin off and just allow myself to easily hit the green without having to thrash at something full out. These are really good shots to practice and have in the locker, especially on those rounds where it's getting tight, you've got a good scorecard in your hand and the holes just feel tighter and tighter as you get near the end, because it's just a really good shot to help you hit it straight and keep the golf ball in play. Now, if we want to play like scratch golfers, I think we need to think about hazards a little bit differently. Now, scratch golfers only cause themselves a penalty shot 1% of the time after they hit tee shots. And I think the general population of golfers are pretty good at seeing things like water hazards and out of bounds and trying to stay well clear of it. But what we don't quite understand is that bunkers are nearly just as much as a penalty of both of those other areas. Because especially if they're deep bunkers, we're simply just chipping out sideways or even in some cases struggling to get out. So actually when we're looking at our course strategy, we should be really changing our club selection and our direction to make sure we're avoiding bunkers. Now I know I said not that long ago you should always be hitting driver, but that's only if there's not specific hazards in the way and you have a decent distance between two hazards that you should be able to hit a driver into most of the time. Now in this scenario on this hole, we've got quite a steep left to right dogleg and there's bunkers on the right and the left side of the hole, which means that effective fairway in the middle is pretty narrow. Now if I look at the hole maps on my ShotScope watch, is a really handy feature. I can move my driving distance up and down the hole and see that I would have to fly my driver 222 yards to get over all the bunkers. Now obviously for most golfers that just isn't realistic, so if I pull that number back down, I can see it's like 195 to the first bunkers, so my decision now is I need to play short of that. Now here you can see it's pretty uphill, probably like 15 yards, so that 195 to the front of the bunker, we probably don't want to be going more than 190, but that's probably playing 205 today. So in this scenario, I am going to allow you to hit 3-wood, but that's just if you're playing short of a specific distance and not just because you're worried about going left or right. Now that club selection just avoids you getting in any trouble and means you've got a full shot for your next shot off the fairway, which is going to make it much easier to get it up near the green. A big thing a lot of scratch golfers do, which other golfers miss, is having a proper green reading routine. And this should start as soon as you start walking up the green to your golf ball. Even maybe when you're in the fairway, you can be looking up, analysing the slopes and predicting what your putt might do from its next position. Now this is something that's really important to be consistent with, because if you don't do this consistently every time, how are you going to consistently guess what the break of the putt is? So there's a few ways I like to do this. I like to go to the middle of my putt, so I'm equidistant from the ball and the pin. And this is something called triangulation, and it teaches your brain the length of the putt much better than just standing behind the golf ball does. I like to read the putt from both behind the ball and behind the pin, because it gives you both different perspectives, and from here I can see this is much more downhill than it looks from the top of the putt. From this position I'm really looking at, is it uphill or downhill? Are there any severe slopes just around the hole? Is it going to really run off after the pin? And then from the side I'm looking much more about the break. And I like to do this from the side that's the lowest point, almost like you're looking up the hill. This just gives my brain loads of different feedback on different parts of the putt to make sure I have all the information to make the right decision on what the break is. After that, I'm just going to line my putt up and hope it rolls near. Ooh, pretty good. It was all down to that routine. So often I see mid-handicap golfers just completely rushing their putting. I don't know if it's because they're panicked and they're trying to be quick, but we need to have some sort of look at the green and routine, or how are we ever going to consistently hole putt? Now, you might not want to hear this, but if you want to shoot lower scores, we really should be warming up. If we dive into the ShotScope stats and look at the split between front nine and back nine scoring, scratch golfers are the only people that score better on the front nine, and I think that's because they have a more consistent routine of wanting to play well from the start and therefore doing a warm-up. Now, if we think this through, 9 holes you might only hit 2 full shots a hole, but that is giving you enough time to warm up and start playing better. So could we hit 18 balls either in the net or on the driving range before we go out? For context, this is 18 golf balls, so it's really not a lot at all, and it's just going to allow us to be ready straight away, so we're not giving away shots on the front nine or the first few holes where we're not really ready to play golf yet. So if you wanted a specific way to split this up, I'd probably hit maybe like 4 shots with my pitching wedge, 3 shots with my 8 iron, 3 shots with my 6 iron, then move into our woods, hit like 3 shots with my hybrid, 3 shots with a fairway wood, and that'd leave me a couple balls left to hit some drivers at the end.